Yeah.
Okay, I will call this meeting, our academics meeting, to order. It looks like a nice agenda, short and sweet. Reading campaigns. Dr. McGinnis?
I'm gonna try to connect here. John, is this room 208 display?
4.
It's not popping up.
Should be 204.
So Ms. Garcia asked for this to be on the agenda. So what I would like to do is just to show everyone what current programs we have going on, mainly at the elementary school. So I don't know if she had a specific question or focus that she wanted this meeting to be about, but I'm happy to talk about what we are doing right now, once we get a connection.
Might have to go grab Aaron. Yeah, can you text him come up here?
I can kind of start, though, if you want me to.
Yeah, let's see.
I'll just pull up that sheet and kind of talk. So some of the current.
Oh wait, something just popped up there.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Jesus.
This is the story of my life. This computer. It is. That's why, I don't know.
Like it might be connected.
It'll be okay.
There you
There.
Oh, sweet.
Perfect.
Nice save.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can expand this copy. When I think of reading campaigns, I think of the old school book it. When I was in school, and you would read X amount of books, and then you would get the little coupon. You'd go into Pizza Hut and get a free pizza. So I was surprised that we still actually have some of that going on in our schools, in our elementary schools. So this shows all of our elementary schools and the programs that they are doing, the reading campaigns or reading initiatives that they have. So Reading Rodeo, that is through Pizza Ranch, and that's one that we just launched this year. They wanted to partner with us, and so basically it entails kids reading X amount of minutes, and then they earn free pizza. They also have the opportunity, if you read the most per grade level, then they have pizza parties at the school. And so we just celebrated a couple of those last week. So they are partnering with us for all schools. We also have Book It at some of our schools, which I think most people probably are aware of what that program is.
Can you make it even bigger? Mind?
How do I do that?
Sorry, I can't. Mind. I'll keep going. Oh, my old computer, I knew how to do it.
Me too.
I better not. John, do you know how to make it bigger?
No, he's.
Okay, never mind. So now mine.
Bethany, you're techie. Do you know how?
Book It is the Pizza Hut program,
Yes.
right?
Correct. And Pizza Ranch is through,
If you go
Reading Rodeo
to
is
the
through Pizza
corner
Ranch.
Pizza Ranch, uh-huh.
And then another one that we have is the Mustangs reading program. And so that is, again, kids reading X amount of books. And then they are given a prize package. So they have tickets
There it is.
for the Mustangs games with that. Thanks, Stephanie. They also come in and do a school assembly to promote reading and to talk about teamwork. And so then we have Reading Adventures, which is through United Way, and that is where volunteers come in and they go to the schools and read to kids. And they primarily focus on title schools and second grade, but they are willing to work at any grade level. So I know Justin McCarthy at Hosea really felt the need at kindergarten, and that some of those kids weren't coming in to school having that opportunity of being read to. So the volunteers have really focused on kindergarten at Hosea. But they go in once a week and read to kids. Reading Circle, Bethany, are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, so Reading Circle's been around it was here before I started in the district, and it is a program, and it used to be in all elementaries and then it kind of died off, but they read so many minutes or words or books, and then they earn a certificate for Reading Circle, and then they just get a certificate at the end of the year and earn prizes. And the goal was to do it every year, kindergarten through 6th grade.
And so some of our schools are still doing that program. And then the last one that I see on here, and this is kind of a unique one at Skaith, where they have kids reading to dogs. I think sometimes reluctant readers struggle or they're intimidated to read with another person, so they have them reading to a dog that comes in. So I think that's kind of unique. So those are some of the things that we have going on right now as far as Reading Rodeo. I know we've been asked about the opportunity to have volunteers come in and read to kids from different businesses, which we do have that through United Way. And my only concern with that would be, I think of my husband actually in this, reading to my stepson, because I love my husband dearly, but he just doesn't have that skill set to question our stepson or my stepson. When you're reading to a kid, it's really important that you pause and you take time to ask about what was just read so that they can practice some of those reading comprehension skills and that they can recall details from the reading and then ask them, what do you think is going to happen next? So they have that skill of predicting or making inferences by questioning. And so I think they're coming in and reading to kids is a great thing, but it takes it to another level when you can actually have that skill set of asking questions to get them engaged in the context and thinking about what they're reading. So, yeah. I don't know if there's any particular questions about currently what we have.
So at least every school at least has a program in place, if not a couple.
Yes. Yes.
So how does United Way do anything to prepare their volunteers to come in and read?
No official training for that I am aware of.
No, they don't. I volunteered with them before.
Perfect, thank you. So they probably go through the background check, protocol type things to volunteer in general, but I would assume there's no official training.
I mean, in terms of asking them, these are the things we'd like for you to do, prompt the kids and try to get them to.
That's something I'm happy to work with Jody and Kylan on. To see if that's something we could do.
I talked to Ashley, but I joined this committee because I was very interested in the reading and helping the school district, bringing the community together in some way to really help the school district in those areas. And so I've been real familiar with some of the programs in Kansas City and what they are doing. I talked to Ashley about one of them called Lead to Read that's gotten into the title schools there, and they've been around for like 11 years. And they go in and they have a huge supportive business community. They come in to the schools. They have a reader, an adult for every child in the classroom, so they read one-on-one. And they do have a training session that they put there. They don't call them instructors or anything like that. They're more like reading buddies. But they do have a training session that they go through, and they do it periodically, update the training for the volunteers. They also have one-on-one tutoring for the kids. They also offer authors in the classroom, where they bring in children's books authors that come and talk to the kids, and then they also have a giveaway program where they go to doctor's offices and everywhere that kids could go to hand out books. And I started becoming interested because I'd heard about Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, and I thought, well, that was a no-brainer to bring to St. Joe. And as I started looking into it, I learned that the state of Missouri had looked at it, and they actually have adopted it as a statewide initiative for 2024, but I'm not sure what the funding's going to be. It is about 17 or 18 states have adopted it, and typically what they do is the state pays half of the cost, and then the entity that's behind it has to raise the other money. But the program provides books for children 0 to 5, and they send them directly to the child's home, and the cost is $2.15 per month per child. So it's like you're basically paying the postage. And now that Dolly Parton's got $100 million, maybe she'll eliminate that part of it too. But they've passed out 180 million books worldwide in the last 11 years. So that's something I thought, could be a foundation. But then coming in, and I've talked to various members, business people in the community, and they're all on board, more like, yeah, this is, it's workforce development. It's so foundational. And I think they're just kind of looking for, okay, so put something together, work with the school, see what we can do to help. But that's what I'm really interested in. I'm not promising anything, nobody's promising anything, but I do know there's ARPA funds that are out there, and this fits into the ARPA funds. They haven't, decided how they're going to spend the next $19 million. But a few city people seem to think it would fit in, whether it's tutor or whatever. But to do a citywide promotion, where the whole city gets around reading. So that's kind of where my interest is. So I've been, obviously talking to Ashley and some others, Sarah and David, about, just what is it, how can we come together? And what could we put together? And I'm also looking at, there's just a lot of resources over the summer. The libraries have reading programs. You have so many daycares, you have so many areas, like Mid-City Excellence, and they have tutoring and all that. Is there some way to see what the school district is doing and then help enhance the school district's efforts through those programs too? So that so not everybody's working in a silo, that they know what the school district's doing, what the kids are getting at school, and how then can they reinforce in their after-school programs what the kids are doing in school. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from and what I would like to work on if it's something that the community can get behind.
Do those volunteers have specific training on reading strategies?
I haven't gone in really deep with Lee to read into exactly what she was very, does anybody know Sarah Stein? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Sarah is a volunteer with Lee to Read, and so she's been coming up here, and they were actually, Lee to Read is actually like, well, maybe we can do some kind of, outreach or whatever. And so I've talked to her several times. They're very cautious about not saying they're any kind of leader, teachers, or they keep the verbiage where they are just mentors and reading buddies. But she said that they very definitely offer training that the volunteers can access, and then when they very first start. So they are guiding them into how to read to kids.
Their training is on their website, Dr. McGinnis.
Okay.
The Lead to Read. There's a bunch of information on their website, and their training, reading resources, and all of that is on there.
And they do big fundraisers there in Kansas City. They've really been embraced. I think they have one big fundraiser, and they raised like over $400,000 this year and stuff. So they have a lot of community support.
Sure.
And I forgot how many students they have in Kansas City, but I think she said they're in like 13 of the Title I schools. I don't know how many of the Title I schools are there.
Most of the schools in Kansas City are Title I, there's only one school that isn't.
So she said they're only reaching part of the kids, but
Are they in a group on their own, or are they under the school district, or is it like?
no, they're a group by themselves. They are
Okay.
a separate 501c3.
So then maybe we could contact
Oh, yeah.
their group to do like a branch off in our town.
Well, they could. I don't know if their program is exactly what we want in St. Joe. Just it's kind of an example. There's also a nonprofit called Success for All that is basic on, it's a reading foundation. And they were just highlighted in the New York Times. They're in like 17 states. And their focus is one-on-one tutoring. They're very much one-on-one tutoring. And they have a lot of statistics that show that the kids improve. I mean, they've done a lot of assessment in the success of that program, and they were just nominated for some award. But, you know, again, it's expensive, you know, tutoring is expensive, but I think they're in like 17 or 18 school districts in 17 or 18 states. And I just started kind of researching them, because I just heard about them, but the one-on-one tutoring is their big focus.
Is that by teachers?
No, it's volunteers. too.
Okay.
And they have a whole program they put in the schools. So I think the teachers are.
Okay, and our teachers do tutoring, and which I think is ideal, just because they do the assessment of those kids, and then they also provide the intervention support through tutoring. And so a lot of our teachers are already, they're doing that one-on-one or small group.
And I think they bring in volunteers also. I don't think
Okay.
it's just all on the school district.
Yeah.
I do know Lead to Read, when I talked to them, one of the outcomes they said they really didn't think about when they started was that attendance for 60% of the kids improved. So that was a big, you know, and they did a 2-year study, but it was mostly, when I read their report, it was mostly like how the kids feel, were they more excited about reading than they were when they started, and that type of thing, and then the attendance. They didn't do a lot of hard assessment, but the Success for All does do hard assessment, so.
I think this is definitely something that we can look into. I just feel a little protective of teachers and their time, that if we are adding a new program for everyone, that we have to take something off their plate. So something that's on the screen there would probably have to go, if not more than one, just so that we have an intentional focus as far as the reading campaign goes. Because if we add more, then that just takes more of the instructional time from a teacher with volunteers who may not be trained in those reading strategies. So I just think if we do that, and I'm happy to pursue that and look into the details of Lead to Read, I just think something else would have to go. And I'd like to get feedback from our teachers and principals if that's a route we are exploring.
Like I said, it's just one of the programs out there, and maybe it doesn't fit 100% with the school district, but there are some, I guess my point is there are some efforts out there, and some of them that are being successful in other school districts.
Maybe look at a lot of the programs and then just choose to like create our own.
And you know, like, and it would be like in our community, how many of the businesses
Right.
could you get to that would be willing to, you know, she said the executive director said they had, before COVID, they had 1,000 volunteers that weekly came in to read in the schools. That's a lot. So they have a full-time volunteer coordinator that took it. So it's, you know, they have 4 or 5 staff people to do it. But like I said, I can certainly find out more information, or even have them come up and talk to you, or
Sure.
and then get more on the Success for All, because that was the one that seemed like that was really data-driven, that their success on that. And they've been around
That's
30
the
years.
tutoring program?
That's one of their emphasis.
It's
Maybe
an all-inclusive program that you would implement in the school. Like, it would be something that we would probably need to look at pretty closely to train, and
Okay.
it's like a methodology.
Gotcha.
But maybe there's something you could pick out of that if you didn't want to, you know, whatever, I just thought, yeah, start the conversation.
Yeah. I think it's all meaningful and worthwhile. My only concern is when we have volunteers come in and read to kids, if they're not trained in those questioning strategies, it does take instructional time from the teacher, and those teachers are held accountable to test scores. And so I just don't want to put anything more on their plate if it's not going to be improving their overall reading skills or ability. So, but I definitely think we can look into it. I appreciate the community engagement part of it. I think we have a lot of momentum in our district and in our city right now, and I think that could be something that we look into to see if people who are interested in partnering with us for that.
Oh, I think you do have a lot of people interested, really. I mean, I think they just want to know what they can do. Yeah.
Question, who's in charge of the reading pups?
Dr. Patterson has that at Scaife. Do you know, Bethany?
Yeah, we did some research of that over the summer, and I didn't realize that they still had reading cups coming to Scaife until we started asking. But it comes out of the Missouri Extension is who does that.
I've heard a lot of positive feedback from that particular program.
Yeah.
With kids who have trauma or just reluctant readers who struggle,
Yeah, I think we need
a little
to.
intimidated to read in class, that kind of thing.
Because I think that would be cool to implement in other schools and not only Scaife. Even older kids, I mean. Who doesn't like puppies? Actually, I really don't. I like looking at them, and I would read to one, but I don't want to cuddle it or anything.
You got a friend here.
So from here, I guess we'll just plan on looking into Lead to Read. I would like feedback from our teachers and principals as far as our current programming to see if they feel like that's meeting the needs, or if we could streamline into one program that we are all using. So I feel like it's fair to get feedback from our people before we make any decisions. And we're kind of set for this year, like this is what we are doing, but I think we can definitely explore for next year.
Question, every elementary school has, it looks like, the Pizza Ranch program, right?
Yes.
Is that able to be expounded upon? Is it able to add more into the program that we already have, or is it just like a set thing?
We just launched it this year. Brian Schul, the manager out there, is very workable. So I think that he would be happy to explore other options if that's something we wanted to do. I think that some schools have had great success with it and other schools have not. And Hosea being one that I know, Justin's had a hard time having kids read at home, because a lot of that is reading time at home, coming back with signed sheets. And so they haven't had as much luck with that. But other schools, Edison, Coleman, have. So it just seems like one reading program will be okay at one school, but not be real successful at another school. So I think that's why there's so much differentiation here between the programs.
Thank you.
But I think Brian would definitely be willing to do more.
Would like us to consider expanding Stacy's staff, because, they're already intervening in some schools, not enough, but she has, reading tutors that are working, and we could probably use them in many more schools.
We also have reading interventionists in some of our schools who pull kids out for one-on-one or small group intervention. So that's something that's happening as well.
Are they not in every school yet?
reading interventionists?
We have we have a half-time reading interventionist in every school. That's the district standard.
Elementary.
In the elementary. And then, buildings determine the needs assessment, what interventions they need, and then they will hire more reading interventionists if they need. So Cardiff Park has more because they use their title funds, because they have a need for that. But every elementary has a part-time reading interventionist.
So are they on her staff or?
They're on mine.
They're on Bethany's staff there.
Well, they actually belong to the building. They belong to the building first, and they belong to the principal, but then they all fall under elementary education.
And so does a part-time interventionist meet the needs for the number of children that need help?
You know, I would never say that you will need more interventionists. I think that really, you know, they have full caseloads and they work all day, every day, providing services for kids. And if you asked anybody in an elementary, they're going to say no, they need more people. So I think that we are meeting the needs of the kids. I mean, I don't think in St. Joe that we're not, but I do think that, you know, if there's an opportunity to increase some staffing there, it would be good.
See, and I would rather $4 into early education so that we're providing that education before they even get into kindergarten, so that they're having those skill sets. I think sometimes we are a bit reactive rather than proactive. So, but hopefully early education will be expanded. That's the goal anyways.
Well, and I looked at that Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and it says in the bill that was passed that it's sunsets after 6 years, and it starts next year, the 23-24 school year. And there's $5 million set aside in the general fund for the state, and so once that goes into effect next school year, then it says all you do is direct the children, parents, to the website, and then they register their kids, and then they get the book sent to them.
Are they going to pay 100% until the $5 million is gone? Or
It appeared as such, according to the press release and the other stuff that I read, and the bill itself never said anything about the need for matching funds, but we'll see how it goes.
Because I do know when I talk to them, they have a whole chart, you know, they look at how many, they have a formula, how many kids from 0 to 5 are in your community, and when I looked it up, it was about, say, 4,400 in St. Joe. And then they say, okay, based on that, we predict a 60% participation rate.
Sure.
And they have the first year would be $10,000, the cost of the second year. Up to the 5th year, by then it's like $50,000 per year. So they've done it so long, they know how many, but they actively go out, and in the lady I talked to said in communities, they actually actively go out to register kids. They go to the libraries, they go to schools, they go a lot of areas, not in the schools, the kids aren't in the school, daycare centers and all to really get the kids registered. And the one thing that's great about it is you can't, once you can't limit it to, you have to take all, the main difference, what their income level or anything like that is, that all the kids are eligible.
They're registered and ages.
And you cannot ask the parents to pay either. They can donate, but you cannot ask them to pay. So it's very, you know, but it's getting books in kids' hands, which is
Right.
to start with, so.
Parents of teachers, that would also be an avenue probably to get the information out. I remember my daughter went through kindergarten screening, and every kindergartner that went through the screening received the book, Oh, the Places You Go. And so that was a book that was common among that kindergarten class, and everybody got that one. So another great program to look at too is Mr. John Cool sent me this program. It's called 15 in the Mahomes Foundation. So Patrick Mahomes his number's 15, and he's encouraging Kansas City school districts to read for 15 minutes a day for 15 weeks. And so I haven't had the opportunity to explore too much in it, but Mr. Cool sent me the website and kind of framed up this is where Kansas City is working in the reading program. So it might be something that we look at as well.
They are a supporter of the Lead to
Are they?
Read. They're a
Oh,
big
awesome.
sponsor of their big fundraiser. So, the foundation.
We are having an academic services retreat next Friday to try and explore things that we can do differently for next year. So Stacia, let's just add this one to
Absolutely.
our agenda
Mhm.
to look at reading campaigns for 23-24.
Yeah, because there's a lot of movement at the state right now with literacy initiatives. You know, the federal government has released some money and the states really has this money. And one of the programs we're leading are the professional learning for teachers and letters training right now. And then the DESE this year is doing a lot of research and study, which has put us as districts a little bit on pause until they can get their feet underneath them. But it will be great to see what comes out of DESE and their literacy initiatives as well there. So.
Question, and this may be a weird question, if a child enters into the district and they speak another language, are they read to in English or their own language?
Unless they speak Spanish, it would be English, so primarily English.
We don't have a bilingual program, so we do have some Spanish speaking employees, but they are instructed in English. So we do have some books and resources that will be in Spanish, and we have some of our programs that you can switch into Spanish, but because we can't offer all the languages, we instruct in English.
I see. Thank you.
So in the early preschool, kindergarten, do we do phonics or anything like that to teach reading?
We do phonics in K1, 2, 3, and that's usually the window in which we teach phonics. I can't speak to the early learning center, but in the in the K6 arena, that's where we teach phonics. And then for those students who have struggled to learn those skills or have some missing skill gaps, we will go back in and fill in those missing phonics skills. So we do direct phonics instruction.
At the Early Learning Center, they do not do direct phonics instruction other than during their reading time, their books. I mean, they embed it within the story time and in the classroom through play, but they have not had specific phonics instruction until this year. We did have the RPDC come down and do some training with the staff there as for phonics instruction, and so that was kind of eye-opening to me, honestly. So I was frankly somewhat surprised that there hadn't been more training in that realm prior, so that I'm excited that we're going down that road now because that needs to happen.
So part of kindergarten readiness is not to know the sounds of the letters
they do
at
not
this
need
point?
No. They do check to see,
Sure.
I mean, what they know, but no, they don't have to know them. But yes, school readiness, when we look at school readiness, and you can look at, she can speak more to the assessment they do when they go into kindergarten. The screening, I would say, is at the Early Learning Center, it is a play-based center. So we have Project Construct is our curriculum that we utilize, along with tying it to the Missouri Learning Standards. We are looking at a couple other programs currently that are a little more driven towards the, we want to balance between play-based, because we believe in play-based. That is how kids learn socially. They need that time with their peers. But also some academics in there, meaning the phonics and such, counting, some math skills for those that are ready. And so the challenge with early childhood, as you all probably know, is that we have kids that come in at all different levels, just like kindergarten, right? We also are very heavy on the early childhood special education side with our current center. So we've got students that would be maybe at the level of a still infant toddler in their development, that might be a 5-year-old. So, and then going to kindergarten next year. So when we look at school readiness, we are looking at all the factors, not just the phonics and things like that, but sitting still to be able to just even listen to a story, being able to participate in the group time, answering, having those discussions back and forth, playing alongside a peer. Those are the things that we're really working on at the Early Learning Center right now.
I just know that, like, my daughter, she's 16, so she's a sophomore, and then my youngest, my son, he's 4.
Yeah.
So, you know, when she went to kindergarten readiness versus when he's going to go to, you know what I mean, to go to the screening, it's changed some, because I know it was one of the things I remember Jody saying way back when was that you'd be surprised how many kids can't tie their shoes when they come to school or whatever. And I'm like, but now I go to, and I remember that, and now I go to the store to buy shoes for my kiddo, for my little guy. You can't find a pair of shoes with shoestring. I'm like, well, of course I'm not going to know how to tie their shoes. There's no shoes to tie at this point. So I'm just because I'm teaching him, just because. But like, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, well, what is expected now, I guess. So not to say that was phonics was expected back then. I don't remember. That's too far.
I mean, we would. It's great if a child is ready. They're going to pick up on those things when they're in preschool, because those things are introduced in the stories and in the conversation and things like that. I would just say that it is not, we're never going to turn a student away at kindergarten if they don't know those. It's when we do the, basically the kindergarten, I call it screening, but it's not really, I don't know if you call it a screening or not, but when we do that.
It's a screening.
It's a screening. It also just gives good data for the teachers to know what they need to work on in the classroom and when you divide them out, but you can speak more on that if you'd like.
So we give the Dial 4 for our kindergarten screening tool. That happened this last year in June, and previous years it's happened in May or April. And that assesses, there's like 3 components. There's language, which is their ability to answer questions, problem solve, their speech, sounds, their vocabulary. Then there's what's called cognitive function, which is like basic counting. There are some letter naming, but it's not naming all of the letters. There is some sounds. There's a lot of phonemic awareness, like rhyming on it. And then there's a motor section, which deals with coloring, how they hold a pencil, cutting, and then those gross motor skills like jumping, skipping, throwing things. And it gives you kind of it's a normed assessment, so it kind of gives you just a ballpark of where the child is in all of those developmental areas. And there's no child that we would ever turn away for kindergarten. Everybody that is age appropriate to come to kindergarten, we want them to come to kindergarten. This is just it's like a dipstick just to see kind of where the kids are that are coming in, how we can appropriately sort them into classrooms, and then what skills kind of to start your year off. Well, we want to see kids coming into kindergarten are kids that are ready to learn. We're less worried about those skills that they have because we can teach them their letters and their numbers and how to count. What we need are kids that know how to get along with their peers, that know how to follow directions, that can listen for extended periods of time. And we don't want them to have to sit for hours, but if they could sit and listen to a teacher read a story and then answer questions and not distract from the learning of their peers, those are kids those are the skills that we really are looking for kindergarten readiness. Because like I said, we have the resources and the teachers to build all those other skills. This year, the state came out with what's called a kindergarten entrance assessment, and we were required to give that before October 15th. And so we gave that, and that assessment looked for language and literacy skills. Again, it's just some letters and letter naming and sounds. They're not looking for them to read. It's a lot of phonemic awareness, rhyming, can things start with the same letter. Then they looked at general and cognitive knowledge. Social emotional development, so it's looking at how they cooperatively play, how they participate in larger groups, because that's another thing we've noticed. Coming from preschool, they're usually in a group of 15 with 2 adults. And when they come to kindergarten, they're in a group of 20 with 1 adult, and that's a difference.
From 3 hours a day to all day.
To all day.
So there's a huge jump.
And then we look at their approaches to learning. So how can they handle frustration? How can they problem solve? What's their independent level for that? And then their physical development, holding a pencil, and their coordination. So we kind of look at those assessments at the very beginning of the year so they can drive where we want, where we need to go to get kids where we want them to be.
So really exposure is a big piece of this for our early learners, because if they've never held a crayon or played with Play-Doh or used a paintbrush or finger painted, their fine motor, they may not, if they're not building with blocks, those kinds of things. So when Dr. McGinnis was talking about kind of trying to be proactive instead of reactive, those are all those ready to learn skills that we are trying to increase and work on. And that is partly, when we do our screenings at the Early Learning Center to see, how many students we can get in there, how many spots we have. We wish we had more spots for all the students that would like to come for those reasons, because as we can provide that environment and that exposure, not that it can't be provided elsewhere also, because it sure can. We have a lot of wonderful places in our community, but we know that there are a lot of students that are not getting that exposure. And so therefore that can play into they may or may not be ready as far as having those skills to sit, to be able to listen to a story, to enjoy the songs and the rhymes and all of those things that help them, those pre-reading skills basically.
So if we had preschool throughout the whole district, that would solve that problem, right?
Well, we would hope that it would help because we would have more students, ready. we would hope. That would be the idea, right? There's always going to be students that still struggles, but we would think that just from research out there that yes, anytime you invest in early childhood education, then you save money later, because instead of having to hire all the intervention and have all the extra that goes into that, the dollars that it takes to do that, we would be like fronting that with
and then
childhood.
All kids would be exposed at least to
those basic
things of sitting, listening to reading, playing with each other, socializing.
Well, and I'm just going to throw out even like toilet training children. Like right now down at the Early Learning Center, that takes up a big part of the time, because children are not, and even in kindergarten, they are coming not toilet trained. So that seems, back when we were, the tying of the shoes, when I taught kindergarten, I remember that was a really big skill. We were always working on that. And really that isn't the case now. Like our concerns are going to be, are they ready to learn? And, can they use the restroom? Can they take care of their personal needs? Are they able to feed themselves? It's different. Not for all kids, but for some. So we want to
So
meet
who
those
are the
needs.
kids that have access to the early childhood?
So we hold screenings all year long. And so really our screenings, we have 5 title classrooms. So those classrooms are, anybody can come to a screening. So it's open to the public, in the whole city. And we do put those out there when we have them. They're also always posted on the website, and if you call the Early Learning Center. Of those 5 classrooms, those title classrooms, they fill up fast, right? So we look at 1 year out from kindergarten. And so they would be kindergarten the following year. Those are our title classrooms. We have morning and afternoon sessions, and it's all by the scores. We take the students with the most needs first until we're full, basically. And then our other classrooms are all early childhood special education. So we have 19 total classrooms. And so within each of those classrooms, so the remaining 14 classrooms, depending on what type of classroom they are, they have a varying number of students in the classroom. We can have less than half of the students in the classroom can be non-early childhood special education. So we can put students in that we also have concerns about for monitoring, and then we have peers, which would be a typically developing student that really doesn't score low, that would be score higher, because we always want to have peers in there to help bring in the other students along.
So the parents have to initiate getting the child to the screening?
To the screening, the parents do have to come to the screening. They have to bring, they have to sign that, so we do the dial also there, and for students that are not able to do the dial, we do the ASQ. And so it's a partnership with parents as teachers and with Head Start, because Head Start also, we know we can't at this point service all of our students, but we want to make sure that the students with the highest needs that we're getting in between either the St. Joseph School District and then also Head Start. So they help us with that screening, and then we look at parent needs for their student.
So that was a question, how does Head Start reach into it? Feed into how do you collaborate? But does Head Start work on some of the same skills Are y'all working on the same type of readiness skills for the kids that are in the programs, or is everybody in their own little?
That's a good question. So as far as their curriculum that they use, I am not for sure on that. I would have to ask. I do know that both Head Start and the Early Learning Center, everybody has been trained with conscious discipline. So that is a partnership that we have together. I'm not sure what their actual classroom looks like because they have childcare and, program.
It's been a
Seems
while,
like
but
that would be something they could collaborate on. I mean, there's so much money going
And I'm
to
not
Head
saying
Start.
they haven't, I'm just saying I don't know for
Yeah.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
very similar.
well, it's been a while since I have collaborated with Head Start, but in my previous job I did, and they used
Do they use
Project
Construct? I
Construct, which
wasn't
was the
100%
same.
sure.
It's the same philosophy and mindset that they use at the Early Learning Center.
Yeah. They even, the kids even brush their teeth at Head Start. At Head Start, yeah. So,
So then how many children that would be available for early childhood are not being serviced in any way?
I'm sorry, I'm kind of taking over, right?
Because
Our
I know-
cohort can be anywhere between 700 and 800 students, depending on the year. I don't have an exact number, and you might have a more accurate, like what a kindergarten, the kindergarten cohort this year, but anywhere between 700 and 800. For example, right now, we have a 3 to 5 center, which starting at age 3, we provide our early childhood special education services. I don't have the number broke down between 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds. But we right now have 389 students as of 2 weeks ago. I haven't checked here recently down at the Early Learning Center. So, I mean, we could easily double, I believe, serving 3 to 5-year-olds, and we still wouldn't meet everyone's needs because, I mean, there's also other things in the community, right? But as far as the school district, if we were looking at our title schools or students with the highest need, we could definitely increase significantly. One of our challenges is our current program, in order to serve the number of kids that we're serving, we have half day. So that if we were to go to a full day program, which we know that a lot of families in our community would like, and it would be helpful, but also for the children to to help them transition to kindergarten, because even a full day at preschool is not as long of a day as it is in kindergarten. It's a little shorter. So like a couple hours shorter. But it would be longer than what we're currently doing. We would have to double just to even see the same number of students. We would have to double the classrooms, if that makes sense. So as we look at programming changes, that's one of the things to take into account. What kind of blended programs do we need? We need some that are full day. I mean, we acknowledge that, but right now we would have to look at an expansion. We would still need, for some families, a half day is what they would like, or they do half day Head Start, half day us. Some of our students receive therapy elsewhere. Some of our students receive therapy in our district. And so those families, a half day would be appropriate, but for some of our students, a full day would be appropriate. So those are the challenges and the things we're looking at. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we
Yeah,
definitely need a
looking
lot
at
more.
Yeah, what percentage of the kids that would be eligible for early childhood actually are able to access it through?
We have, as
or-
far as our so we're never full for early childhood special education. We always have to make room, right? So if we have a student that through Child Find that we, through our screening, or a parent has made a referral and we do move forward with an evaluation, and they qualify, there will always be a spot for early childhood special education. And so we always have to leave room there. It's our title classrooms and our peer spots that we fill up very fast.
There's 788 kids in kindergarten this year, so
Perfect.
roughly
Yeah.
about between 770
Yeah.
and 800 kids attend a school or in each
Typical
grade level,
cohort.
or in a typical grade level.
so half of them are going to preschool, essentially.
Less than that, because we service 3 to 5-year-olds. So some of our,
So your 700 in some count included 3-year-olds.
so like our cohort would be like, so the kids that are going next year to school, or our current kindergarten class, would be let's just say 775 to make my brain be able to remember that number, right? And then at our Early Learning Center, we have 389 students, but those are ages 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
So all those kids are not going next year. So, I mean, unless I break it down, which I would need to do exactly, we're only seeing a
Yeah,
fraction.
it's a small percentage. Wow.
20%.
But you don't know if other kids are in other programs.
They are,
within
yes,
the
and
city,
we do have other
or
programs.
private
Yes.
daycare,
Yes,
or
so I couldn't,
private schools.
You know, I don't know how many are being served, like I
Right,
said, in other
yeah.
programs throughout the community. But I know that there is still a wait list to get in because our program, there's no cost. We provide transportation, things like that. So for families that would like those services, we're not able to offer all of those. But yes, there are a lot of families that are looking outside the district to provide that for their child.
Yes. Yeah, well, I just was wondering, our goal is, in this district, is to service 100% of the kids that need to have early childhood development, right?
Well, I would love that. That would be ideal between all of the community. I mean, I feel like we also have community options out there where families may choose that. But yes, we would like to be able to offer it if families would like that. But I mean, we have a lot of there's good programs in the community already too. So we also wouldn't want to put them out of business or, you know, take away from that. But I do believe that there are enough children in our community that are not receiving early childhood that we could up our game significantly, and we would never catch them all, right? We would hope to, but between all the offerings in the community, and if we really upped our numbers, then we would have a much better handle on things than we do now. We don't want the waiting list we have now.
Right, that's what I said. If we aren't gonna service 100%, maybe was an unrealistic statement, but what I mean is so that we do not have a wait list.
Yeah, we don't want to have a waiting list. And we would like to, so the other thing is, as families will, you know, refer for special education testing and things like that, we need to make sure it's not lack of exposure. It's not a disability, a developmental delay in the sense that it is you know, because that's different than, you know, they've just never had exposure to these things. So their fine motor development is just not developed. And so we're really trying to work with parents as teachers and work through that, but then also just as parents come in, encouraging them of this is where your child scored, these are the things that you could be doing at home, come back in for a rescreening and let's see if those improved or didn't. But again, it's really up to the families to come to us at this point.
Because we just have under 400 right now.
Yes.
We're doing, so.
For 3 to 5 year olds, but the majority of those are, classrooms are ECS.
To eliminate that, it might be somewhat of a liability, but eliminate that wait list. Can you ballpark? Would that be, if we're just under 400 now, would that be 1,000? Would it be 1,200? Would it be 800 to get, so that we don't have a wait list?
If we could get to, and the ballpark in my mind has been, if we could get to around 800 students, 3 to 5, and see where we're at, that would be a good next step. That would be because our title classrooms, we also have an opportunity to possibly do some ADA classrooms if we can hire the staff. We could hope to do that this year, but we were not able to get the staff for that. Those classrooms can have larger numbers and we can model them a little different than our ECSE classrooms, and so we could have more. So we're exploring different options right now for those.
You know, like we're definitely busting at the seams, right? If
We don't have room for another classroom, and if we were to move to an all day, we would be serving less students there. So currently, yes, so there is no space for additional classrooms there.
So with the expansion we're talking about and kicking around, huge expansion to that, would that then close like and everything be moved to there?
You're asking me some pretty pointed questions early on.
Things are going to be happening about this pretty quickly.
So it just depends, I guess. Depends on if we were to look at a model where we had a big one center where everybody could be. That's one model that we could explore if the board chose to go that direction. And then everybody could be housed in one, but we need a very large facility for that. The other option would be in the interim is to add spaces across the district to slowly increment our way there. That would look differently. So we're really looking at two separate models depending on what the board and our superintendent would like to move forward with or try to move forward with. So I feel like there are opportunities either way to expand.
Which one is your preferred model, the first one?
I'm on the spot today. I'm going to be honest. My personal preferred is there are benefits to having a all-encompassing center. Just like why we did, the Lake Early Learning Center, the collaboration that can happen, the training pieces, the therapy that can all be under one roof, and all that. Those are all the benefits to be able to house. The challenges would be the timing, and so I guess I'm kind of would like both because I feel like I don't want to wait. So I would love to have this is our couple year down the road, this is our goal and this is what we're working towards. But the immediate would be, let's start making plans to get to there so that we can, I feel that there is a sense of urgency to serve more students in our community. So with that being said, I would like to see ultimately a large center would be a great thing for our community and a wonderful goal to have. But I don't know the timeline of that. That could be a couple years down the road, where next year I would love to be able to open up some more classrooms, so that we could by next, when we do our spring screening, I want to be able to tell those families, you have a spot. And that
If you opened up another place, would those kids at the other place be able to travel to get the therapy and the resource rooms and
we would
everything like that? Or
probably,
would you have to?
we don't have it laid out on paper yet, but in thought, right now we have set up for therapies and we have a therapy room, we have all of our therapists down there. If we did something in the interim, depending on if it was at one site, so if it was at a current building that we had, we could have therapies there too. If it was at separate schools, if they were classrooms, then no, the therapy, those students would have to stay in the current building where the therapies are at. But what we would really look at expanding right now would be ADA and Title classrooms. And so therefore then if they pulled out, if we were able to do that, then we would have more space down at the Early Learning Center. So those are all thoughts. Nothing has been decided. Like I said, it just depends on what route the district decides to go.
How about funding? Where's the funding?
So ADA, there's funding out there. If we have the room, that's average daily attendance basically. So we would they would need to be qualified for free and reduced lunch. And then that would be an all-day program. So we could get some funding back from that. Title, it would be an allocation of more title dollars for that. And then purchasing of equipment, furniture, and then teachers.
So there is
Staff.
funding for it.
For not in a large site, but I mean if we have space within our district, that's different.
I do appreciate you allowing us, to pick your brain. And I know that you were not, prepared for this, and so I just want to.
So don't hold me to anything
This is
specifically,
wonderful.
it's
So
just
we're not-
talking, right?
All we're doing is we're just a bunch of friends talking right
Yeah.
now. So,
Well, you qualified your statement. You said if the board decides
Yes,
this or
yes,
they decide this,
yes.
these are my preferences.
so it's really us in the hot seat, not you.
It will be. I can give you all these plans and all these ideas and all these things, but in the end, there would have to be, yes, a approval. So,
At Lake, is there a natural divide, say we would keep things there, like for instance, and moved into a bigger center? Or I'm for moving everything back out to all these underutilized buildings and put it in 5 or 6 places around town, but would there be a natural divide there if we went with the big giant center, 3 to 5-year-olds, and like special ed would stay at Lake, for instance, and then all the other stuff related to early childhood.
I think it would just depend because we have itinerant services that we also offer, so depending on the needs of the student, the higher needs would need to be in a place where there were therapy options, right? We also have teachers that, special education teacher that can go to the classrooms, the other classrooms. So it would just depend. I mean, one of the challenges, and we have, as it's not a secret, we know, and we've heard from parents too, is the fact that the location, although it was wonderful to have everybody housed in one place, it is a long ways for some of our families. We try to be mindful, and we're watching our bus routes all the time, but if we were to have a second location that would be on the other side of town, there could easily be a divide to help with that. Or if there was one location that was more centralized, then that could also help our transportation and for families. Even just if you think about a parent that chooses to drive their own child. So I remember taking my kids to preschool. By the time you get them there, and you think, I might run to the store, and then you leave, I mean, the time's up, 3 hours is up. And if it takes you, 20 minutes to get somewhere. So just being mindful of our community and what they are asking for also. Did I answer that, kind of?
Okay, are there any more questions? You good, Kim?
Thanks.
All right. This meeting is adjourned. I appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.